The Final Years of Nikola Tesla, a story of genius and isolation. In the fall of 1937, Nikola Tesla, one of history's most brilliant inventors, found himself in the twilight of his life. At 81, Tesla was living alone in room 3327 of the Hotel New Yorker in New York City. Despite the struggles of his later years, when his groundbreaking work was largely forgotten, he still had his routines, one of which was feeding the pigeons at a nearby cathedral and library. One fateful night, Tesla left his hotel after midnight for his usual walk. As he crossed the street a few blocks away, disaster struck. A taxi hit him, knocking him to the ground. He sustained serious injuries, 3 broken ribs, and a severely wrenched back. Tesla, always stubborn and self-reliant, refused to seek medical help. This was a pattern throughout his life. Tesla had long avoided doctors, relying on his own methods to care for himself. Although the full extent of his injuries was never fully known, the accident left him weaker, unable to recover fully. Tesla continued to live in isolation, his health deteriorating, until January 7, 1943. At 86 years old, he was found dead in his hotel room. His body was discovered after 2 days, when a maid, Alice Mulligan, ignored the Do Not Disturb sign and entered his room. The cause of death was determined to be coronary thrombosis, a type of heart attack. Tesla had lived out his final years in solitude, with little contact from the outside world, and when he passed, there was no one to notice for 2 days. 2 days after Tesla's death, something even more unusual occurred. The US government, keen on investigating Tesla's work, particularly his more speculative ideas, like wireless transmission of energy and his rumored death ray, moved quickly to seize his belongings. The FBI ordered the alien property custodian to take possession of his papers and effects. They called in a well-known electrical engineer, John G. Trump, to examine Tesla's items. Trump's report, after a few days of investigation, concluded that there was nothing dangerous or groundbreaking in Tesla's later work. Tesla, it seemed, had spent his final years dabbling in philosophical ideas, rather than producing new, practical inventions. Despite the circumstances of his death, Tesla's passing did not go unnoticed. On January 10, 1943, New York's mayor, Fiorello LaGuardia, read a heartfelt eulogy for Tesla on the radio. 2,000 people attended a state funeral at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in Manhattan, a fitting tribute to the man who had once been celebrated as a genius. Afterward, Tesla's body was cremated at Ferncliff Cemetery, and another service was held at the Serbian Orthodox Cathedral of St. Sava in New York City. The man behind the genius, Tesla, was not just a recluse. He was also a man of deep thoughts and contradictions. He never married, often claiming that his chastity was the key to his intellectual achievements. In an interview from 1924, he spoke about how women had changed over the years, from gentle and reverent to more competitive and manlike, a shift he found troubling. Tesla's choice to remain single allowed him to focus entirely on his work, but in his later years, he admitted that this might have been a sacrifice to great. Tesla was known to be asocial, preferring the company of his thoughts over that of others. Yet, when he did engage with people, he left a lasting impression. Friends and colleagues described him as a man of immense sweetness, sincerity, and generosity. One of his secretaries, Dorothy Skerritt, spoke of his nobility of character, while author Julian Hawthorne admired his blend of scientific genius and poetic sensibility. Tesla was also a lover of fine music and food, and was known to converse in several languages. Tesla's friendships were many, including with the likes of author Mark Twain, with whom he shared a mutual admiration. Twain once called Tesla's invention of the induction motor the most valuable patent since the telephone. Tesla was also influenced by his meeting with Swami Vivekananda, the Hindu monk, who sparked in him an interest in Eastern philosophy. Tesla would go on to study Hindu and Vedic texts, and he even wrote an article exploring the relationship between matter and energy, using Sanskrit terms like akasha and prana to describe his ideas. Later in life, Tesla became involved with people of varying beliefs, including George Sylvester Viereck, a poet and mystic who later became a Nazi propagandist. Tesla attended dinner parties hosted by Viereck, although it is unclear how deeply involved he was in his friend's controversial politics. A man of contradictions, Tesla had his quirks. He was known to be critical, particularly about people's physical appearance. He once fired a secretary simply because she was overweight, and he was not shy about criticizing others' clothing choices. Tesla could also be harsh in his opinions, and when Thomas Edison died in 1931, Tesla was the only person to offer a negative comment about the man. Tesla felt that Edison's methods were inefficient and that his refusal to engage with theory and mathematics held back progress. Tesla's later years also saw him adopt a strict vegetarian diet. He lived on only milk, bread, honey, and vegetable juices, living a frugal and ascetic life as he slowly faded from the public eye. The legacy of Nikola Tesla. Although Tesla spent his last years in obscurity, living alone in a small hotel room, his impact on the world was undeniable. His ideas on electricity, wireless communication, and power transmission would go on to shape the modern world. Yet, his eccentricities, his refusal to engage with others, and his often speculative pursuits led to a life that, in many ways, was marked by isolation. Tesla's death in 1943 may have been quiet and unnoticed by many at the time, but today, his name is synonymous with brilliance, innovation, and a certain tragic genius. Tesla's story is one of untold potential, a man who pushed the boundaries of science and imagination, but whose later years were marked by loneliness and neglect. Though he died largely forgotten by the world, today we remember him as one of the greatest minds of the 19th and 20th centuries, an inventor whose legacy continues to shape the modern world.